What's up everyone, Gotham Aluminum here. Here are 5 lore details in Batman Caped Crusader Season 1. If you enjoy me talking about Batman content outside of Arkham, let me know. Make sure to subscribe as well, and let's get started with the first one here. And spoilers obviously for the show, obviously. So Batman Caped Crusader is a brand new Batman universe and show that is heavily inspired by the animated universe, and you can see the clear inspirations from that show. There's a lot of similar-esque story beats here, at least I thought so, but the show has its own telling of different characters and events. One of them is Bruce Wayne. I wanted to start off this video talking about Bruce because I think this one we get in the show is a lot more closed off and even scarier in a way than the one we typically think of when we think of Bruce Wayne. Now, Bruce in this show seems to be a lot angrier and way more evil-stricken than his usual counterpart. Not to say that he's evil in the show, because he's not. He's still a heroic Batman, but let me explain. To start off, in episode 3, Kiss of the Catwoman, we get to see flashbacks of Bruce Wayne on the night of his parents' death. And not only that, we get to see therapy sessions Bruce Wayne has with Harley Quinn in the show, which we'll talk about her later on in the video, but these things give us a deeper look at Bruce Wayne. During Bruce Wayne's flashbacks to the night his parents died, you can see how closed off he is when he's talking to the cops here after the incident, or when Alfred here tries to cheer Bruce up on the car ride home. He simply ignores them. That's all normal, but the biggest change here is a scene where he has nightmares about this when he sleeps, in which he then decides to go to Alfred and tells him that they're all going to pay and that Alfred will help him, they being the criminals. He says this all with a dead stare in his eyes like he's Aaron from Attack on Titan. And as you can see, Alfred looks worried. We'll talk more about Alfred later, but Bruce treats him kind of like a dirtbag throughout the show. Alfred is constantly trying to help Batman throughout the show, and Bruce just simply ignores his gestures. Bruce's behavior isn't exclusive to Alfred either. He's shown to still have moments with other characters where he doesn't consider the feelings of others before he speaks. One example being when Barbara's friend Harley falls to her death here, quote unquote. Batman, rather than comforting her, tells her how reckless Harley was, with Barbara telling Batman to shut up. So yeah, Batman is kind of more of a dick in that sense, but Batman does apologize before he leaves though in the scene, which kind of highlights his character growth of Batman here throughout the show. He shows more and more compassion throughout the show. In the beginning as a child, he started his mission out as a kind of revenge kind of thing. He wanted criminals to pay. Usually, Bruce starts his journey as Batman so that what happened to him doesn't happen to anybody else. Here though, while that may be true, it seems to highlight Bruce's revenge-fueled anger, so to speak. And as the show progresses, we see Batman becoming more and more compassionate, like I said, like the example I gave with Barbara, or making sure Natalia doesn't die in the carnival episode, etc. Alfred and Batman's relationship I'm saving for another point in the video because I think it deserves its own point, but he shows compassion to him too. Because of Batman's upbringing in this universe, with him being more sinister as a kid and just wanting to make all the criminals pay, he's scarier because of that. And him slowly changing for the better is something I really appreciated in the show. Hopefully we get to see more of this kind of growth in the next season, but for this one season, I think it was done pretty well and it was a unique change of pace. So this show features a lot of Batman villains and characters, obviously. However, a good amount of characters here have a lot of different origins or just stories that stray away from the traditional ones we typically see. I think it works out for the most part, but let's go through some different characters and discuss the changes Batman Caped Crusader made to some of the traditional lore of these characters, because I think it's pretty interesting. I mean, to start, we got the first episode with the Penguin. They changed Penguin to a woman in the show, and not only that, the Penguin's story here is pretty different from the traditional lore. Penguin here is seen as a kind of good-hearted person in Gotham, as notable people in the city are aboard her iceberg lounge for a kind of fundraiser thing. And on top of that, the Penguin has her own family here that follows her around, but they soon either betray her or get killed. Penguin gets taken down episode 1, so we don't get to see her too much, but for the most part in the episode, the story of the Penguin is kind of similar in a sense with the traditional Penguin lore, with her having a part of Gotham under her control until Batman steps in. But the obvious differences here being her gender and the immediate family following her around. Another character I wanted to discuss is Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman. Now, Selina here has some things I wanted to talk about. First of all, it seems that she's rich, or was rich rather, considering this place they lived in the episode. She mentions it was all thanks to her father. Her father left them, though, with bupkis, according to Selina. So she seems to know her father here in this universe. Typically in Batman lore, her father is Carmine Falcone, a huge mob boss in Gotham, but Carmine's never mentioned here in the show. So like, is her father still Carmine here or what? Because usually Selena is alone in the slums of Gotham. So this is a unique change to her character, with her knowing her father, seemingly, and having lived a lavish life prior to the episode. It's just food for thought. Somebody else I wanted to talk about was Harley Quinn. So Harley is pretty different in this universe. She's still a therapist here, but she's friends with Barbara Gordon and Renee Montoya from GCPD. And not only that, she's her Harley Quinn villain persona here, but it's not because of the Joker. She's just a straight up villain already, torturing kidnapped patients of hers and turning them into like humongous clowns or big babies. It's crazy stuff. It's a really unique rendition of the Harley Quinn persona, which I think we'll see more of next season. Her personality here isn't really whimsical like she normally is. It's more serious and sinister, which I think is a nice change of pace, honestly, considering how much Harley gets overused nowadays. So I think this different version of Harley Quinn just works in this universe. I like it. And one final one I wanted to talk about here in this point was Harvey. Now, Harvey is a little more unique. Now, Harvey Dent, prior to becoming Two-Face in the show, has a little bit more corruptness to him. Corruptness? Yeah, sure. I mean, he's way more of an asshole. He's making deals under the table with corrupt officials like Rupert Thorne, but at the same time, he still wants to bring justice to the city. He's depicted as a very flawed person with some good intentions in the beginning of the show, rather than how some versions depict him as this pure-hearted person until he becomes Two-Face and then he turns evil. So that was interesting to see here. And what I also find interesting is that usually Gordon, Harvey, and Batman all work together prior to Harvey's accident. However, in this show, they all work together after Harvey's accident, where he's already Two-Face, and the final episode shows us that he's still a good man all the way until his death, where he saves Barbara. Or at least a part of him is good anyway. It's a very interesting take. Like, he didn't even really use his coin in the show. Like, he did occasionally, but it was never really, like, shown a lot. And it's definitely a unique take on Two-Face as a character. They do kill him off, sadly, but his arc spanned pretty much the entire show, so I think it is a nice way to give him a conclusion if they were going to kill him off. But as far as differences for characters go, those were the ones I wanted to discuss. There are some other differences for sure to other characters, but I think these were the most notable. We will see how this plays out in the future seasons with maybe other new characters or just these characters as well. So this point will borrow from some of the first points made with Bruce Wayne, but this one focuses more on Alfred, because I think Alfred and Bruce's relationship here is very interesting, and it's an arc in itself since like the very first episode of the show. So as I stated earlier, when Bruce as a kid tells Alfred he wants all the criminals to pay, Alfred looks scared, like he doesn't know who he's looking at anymore. And then throughout the show, Batman's very distant towards Alfred. Batman is constantly dismissing Alfred's ideas, and every time Alfred tries to tell him to take a break or to relax or something, Batman just kind of ignores him and moves on with the mission. And at some points, Batman just straight up disrespects Alfred, telling him to drop a conversation or something like that. And not only that, Batman is always calling him Pennyworth rather than Alfred, treating him more as his butler and not so much as family. Despite all of this, Alfred obviously still loves and cares for Bruce and does whatever he tells him to because Alfred's just a good soul. Despite all of this, Bruce obviously still cares for Alfred. It's just due to the angry, more so revenge-fueled Bruce Wayne we see here, where it doesn't seem like that. Bruce ignores the people around him, which is basically just Alfred. There's also clear examples in the show where Bruce and Alfred never really just talk about each other's lives, like one example being in the Gentleman Ghost episode where Bruce didn't know that Alfred was a part of a noble bloodline, in which Alfred tells him it's because he never asked, implying that they don't talk much outside of the job. But when push comes to shove, the show shows us how much Batman cares for Alfred. A really good example is being in that same episode, Gentleman Ghost, where Alfred helps Batman beat the ghost and nearly sacrifices himself when the ghost tries to possess Bruce, in which Alfred shields Bruce from it. And once Batman saves Alfred, he admits to him that he can't do this without him. It seemed hard for Bruce to say those words, but it might just be because he lost sight of what matters most due to his mission, and this close call where Alfred nearly dies wakes him up and he realizes how much he cares and needs Alfred. I think this was well done, and the show leads us in a way where Batman could have turned out like Harvey Dent did in the show if he didn't have Alfred. Harvey goes insane and has his split personality and loses sight of his humanity, as Alfred puts it. The same thing could have very well happened to Bruce, but Alfred, being the voice of reason, tells Bruce that he's not like Harvey in the final episode and that Bruce is still inside of the Batman persona and that he has his humanity. And Batman understands this and finally calls Alfred Alfred instead of Pennyworth, showing us that Batman now truly understands and respects Alfred more as family and seemingly puts him above the mission. I really love this because the dynamic between Batman and Alfred is always a treat, and seeing it here where Alfred is finally happy to see Bruce accept his humanity and make allies and understand what matters most is heartwarming. It's similar to scenes like in Batman Arkham Origins where Batman is still who he is because of Alfred. This show perfectly displays why Alfred is Batman's Batman. Without him, Batman would have ended up like Harvey Dent, losing his humanity. It's a nice theme in the show that I really like how they handled because it gave us a unique idea with Bruce being cold and seemingly distant of his humanity in the beginning to then the opposite of those things at the end of the show. So hopefully we get to see this new and improved Bruce Wayne in Season 2. Now, something else I wanted to discuss was the eluding characters and storylines that are potentially going to be shown in some shape or form in Season 2. Throughout the show, there's a lot of characters that are alluded to and even things that reference a wider DC universe. Here's some that I found that I wanted to go in depth with. First off, I want to talk about some smaller ones. So, Harley mentioned in episode 4 that one of her colleagues was Crane, aka Jonathan Crane, aka Scarecrow. Will we see Scarecrow in Season 2? No idea, but this does give us a hint towards more Batman villains. Another one is Firefly. In that same episode, Firebug is showcased, a more minor Batman villain, but Flash and Bullock mistake him for Firefly, the more popular Gotham arsonist. Maybe this means that Firefly exists already in this universe? I don't know, but it is something to take note of. Another one is Carmine Falcone. Carmine Falcone is the father of Catwoman in most interpretations. Selina mentions her father in this universe, so does that mean Carmine exists as well? They never mention him as far as I'm aware of, so her father could be someone else entirely since it's usually not fully known to Selina if Carmine Falcone is truly her father or not. But I don't know, maybe they'll elaborate on this in some point in a future season. And also, I don't know if a lot of people caught this, but we also see Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen in the show. In episode 4, in the press crowd, there's Lois and Jimmy standing right behind her. And this is Lois because it's based off her Fleischer Superman cartoon appearance. Is that how you pronounce it? Fleischer? My bad if I mispronounced that. But anyways, this is a reference to Lois Lane. Now, this reference, I don't think this means it's connected to the Fleischer Superman cartoon universe. It might just be an Easter egg, but I dive deep into anything pause. I'm going to say this is Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen in this universe. And I think that's really awesome because that means maybe Superman exists in this universe. But let's go into the more unique ones. First off, Batgirl. Will we see Batgirl eventually? Maybe. The thing is, throughout the show, there are moments where Barbara questions if what she's doing at GCPD really matters or if it's just that corrupt. She has a different sense of justice compared to others in the department. Even her father, who questions how she handles some criminals, where she essentially gives them a break where Gordon would use the full extent of the law. This is really highlighted in episode 7 where it showcases her way of dealing with crime in the GCPD differently. And also at the end of that episode, one of the crooks she tried to help get a better deal tried to have her killed, and the final shot of the episode shows her stopping in her tracks and thinking most likely about how despite all the good she's trying to do, if it really matters in the end, this might be setting up her taking on the path of Batgirl at some point. Somebody I didn't expect to see in the show was Linton Midnight. So Linton Midnight is just a magician in the DC universe who's usually seen as a rival to John Constantine, the more notable magician that I'm sure more people know about. They touch on magic briefly in this episode, which is cool because Batman has a surprising amount of connections with magic. Like usually he's really good friends with Zatanna, one of the most powerful DC magicians. I honestly thought we were about to see her in this episode, Megan Fox is hot. But with Linton Midnight introducing us to magic here, maybe we'll see more magic users in the future. It's just interesting to think about. Somebody else I wanted to talk about was Waylon Jones, aka Killer Croc, he was shown briefly in episode 8. He's in the circus of all these freaks, which is accurate with his backstory about how he joined them since he was always out of place in his world. However, the circus ended up bullying him, causing him to leave. At least that's what typically happens. So we might see him leave from the circus in season 2, maybe. It'd be really cool. I love Killer Croc. He's one of my favorite villains, so I hope we see more of him in season 2. And in that same episode, we get references to a lot of the Robins, including these two boys, Dickie and Jason, obviously referencing Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, as well as these two girls, Stephanie and Carrie, referencing Stephanie Brown and Carrie Kelly. I guess we're just forgetting about Tim Drake, huh? I guess that's cool. But yeah, this was pretty interesting. Maybe we'll see the Flying Graysons in season 2 as well. I hope so anyway. Robin's a very important Batman character, and I do hope he gets his time to shine here. He's just a very crucial character to Batman's character, and I really just hope we see something like that in season 2. And finally on these points, the final scene of the show, we see the Joker. Now, Joker is torturing and killing people with this good old laughing, killing serum thing. No idea what his plan is, but I am glad to see the Joker here. I thought we were just not going to see him in this season, but we do, and it'll be really interesting to see how this rendition showcases his character, especially with this new Harley Quinn and how the show doesn't stray away from showing death. Not much to say about the Joker because we really don't see much of him, but the thought of what his plan could be is very scary to say the least. I'm very excited to see what he will do. But yeah, for setting up characters, or alluding to some at least, I think the show did a good job to not shove it in our face and rather use it to expand the world in an appropriate way. Hopefully we see some of these characters come to season 2 in full force. That would be sweet. Now, something I wanted to discuss about this universe is how we see the early stages of Batman and his relations to places like GCPD or the people there, as well as Gotham transitioning to the villain-infested, even scarier city that we usually see, rather than just regular gangsters like Rupert Thorne. So Batman slowly develops his relationships with his common allies here like Gordon, Barbara, even Alfred. The show starts off with everyone in GCPD gunning for Batman. In fact, this is really highlighted in episode 4, where this episode has a ton of references to Batman Year 1, which is awesome because Batman Year 1 is my favorite Batman story. The story is basically about Batman's first year, obviously. This episode has a ton of references to that. Like the scene at GCPD where they're all at a meeting trying to find a way to catch Batman. They even touch on when Batman goes out at night like they do in Batman Year 1. On top of that, Batman is lured into a burning building, similar to how in Batman Year 1, Batman is also sort of lured into a building where officers try to catch him in both versions. And then Batman and Gordon in this episode end up working together to save some kids, which kind of reminds me of the ending of Batman Year 1 where Batman and Gordon sort of work together to save Gordon's baby, igniting their relationship with each other. We see over the course of the show that other characters start working with Batman, like Barbara, who tries to save Batman from Harley's trap, for example. It's really cool to see that, and I really like that the show highlights that Batman is a myth from the beginning of the show to then a full-on source of hope for a lot of characters throughout the show. It's not a unique or new trope or anything, but it is cool to see here in this rendition. Seeing things like Gordon chasing Batman through GCPD, then telling Batman in the final episode he needs to leave before backup arrives, they developed that pretty well here in the span of 10 episodes. And this sort of change can also be applied for Gotham City. Gotham City starts off in the first episode with regular mobsters taking over Gotham like Rupert Thorne, even the Penguin, as the Penguin isn't a full-on theatrical villain, right? But then we see the crazy side of Gotham taking over throughout the show. We see Clayface rear his head, we see Nocturne, the Gentleman's Ghost with all that magic, the Joker's coming to terrorize Gotham. What Gotham once was, isn't anymore. It's arguably worse. The city needs Batman now more than ever, as all these villains showing themselves will terrorize Gotham in new ways never seen before. And I kind of believe this is symbolized in one of the final shots in the show, where Rupert Thorne looks out his window to see Batman standing on the rooftop in the iconic pose, referencing the original animated series pose. To me, I like to think that this means the age of Gotham with regular crooks like Rupert Thorne are no more, and the new age of Gotham with heroes and villains is now upon them. Or I might just be looking too much into it, but that's, I do that a lot, so yeah, there you go. But those are 5 lore details in Batman Caped Crusader. Overall, I like the show a lot. I don't think it was perfect. I mean, I'm not good at reviewing stuff. I'm a very casual person, but I still really liked it. I would watch this again for sure if a friend asked me to. But what did you think about Batman Caped Crusader? Let me know, and let me know if I got anything wrong. Or if you want to see more videos like this, or if you want to drop a like or subscription, that'd be awesome too. Hope you enjoyed the video though, and I'll see you on the next video. Stay safe and peace.